Okay, so I think we'll get started now. I'm Ben Kester, Director of Public Works. Also on the call tonight, Willie Pop, the Ward Councillor, Bruce Garrett, Chairman of Public Works and Active Transportation, Mayor Dave Barton, Christy Honey, our CAO, Pam Beach, Ward Councillor for the Goodwood area, and Todd Snooks, Ward Councillor for Ward 5 north of Brock and west of Main. We also have Colleen Baskin. She's in our communications department. And Courtney Clark, manager of parks and manager of the parks. And our consultants, Mark Swan and Christina Ilishu. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to them right now to run through the slides, and we'll have time at the end for some questions if there are any. Mark?
Okay, thanks, Ben. So thanks for joining us in this. I'm going to turn off my video if I can. I have to move things around. But I'll leave it on while I'm talking right now, and turn it off when I'm not. So yeah. So thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to be talking about the South Balsam stormwater management pond retrofit project. It's a job that is going to improve the stormwater quality discharge for the municipality into the brook. That and it's as everyone knows, the storms are getting more intense, and storm water management is a big issue in the community, and more or less around the world as we know it. So I'll start off with a safety moment. We like to talk about safety at all times, and then we'll go through the project background, the goals and of the project, some details on the project, construction impacts, and then if you could, there's a chat. You could put your questions in the chat, and then at the end of our presentation, we'll address your questions. So we'll get started. So as Ben started off, I'm Mark Swan. I'm the project manager for the project, and Christine Askew is the design lead for the project for Lee Consulting. So safety moment is winter weather. We haven't had a terrible amount of it this year, but we might get some of it this evening. The colder temperatures change tire grips when we're driving. That's why I recommended winter tires instead of all season tires. And it's important to navigate the ice and snow, and also very important to adjust our driving habits, leave space. Hello? Sorry. So drive with caution. Make sure your windshield wiper fluid's topped up. Have a blanket or two in the trunk, and safety vest or bright clothing, and a flashlight. So, and check the weather conditions before you leave on your trip. So, we'll just briefly go through the project background, the goals of the project, and a summary of the proposed works. So the site is located south of South Balsam Street and east of Turner, and north of the railway corridor and the Uxbridge Brook. So there's walking paths through there, and the facilities have been there. They were built as part of the subdivisions. So there's two subdivisions, more or less east of here Turner and west of Turner, were built in the 90s. So this is the existing condition. So there's 3 ponds. Water comes from the subdivisions through the 2 walkways. There's 2 quality ponds. This is one, and this is the other. And then there's a stormwater management, the quantity pond. That this is a gray, shows where the water levels when we did the survey, but it actually goes, it's all this area. So it's quite large in there. So, and as said, it was built in the 90s. So a little bit more details. So there's the walking trails through the area. There's a little abandoned playground along the rail corridor. There's the boundaries are the backs of the properties on South Balsam and Turner, and then the rail corridor here. The inlets to the ponds are from Turner down the walkway. There's a pipe that goes here. Under smaller storms, the flow goes around that quality pond and then overflows into this larger quantity pond. And then from South Balsam, it comes down the pipe down the walk path and into this quality pond, and then that overflows into the bigger quantity pond, and then that is released through a pipe up to the Uxbridge Brook. That's the existing conditions. And so what the goal of the project is to improve the stormwater management system. So to bring it up to today's standards, as everything things improve, in regards to how we treat water for quality and quantity controls. We're also updating the stormwater management facility to reflect the climate change impacts. So the larger intensity storms, more water, and how we deal with that, and still maintaining the quality of the water before we release it to the brook. And then we have to keep it inside the township's budget. So I'll hand it over to Christina. She'll go through the project details. Christina?
Mark, if you can please give me control as well, just to point out so people can see what we are discussing. Okay, thank you. So as Mark mentioned, we are designing this new swim facility to provide a little bit less space than the existing pond. And this is the footprint of the proposed pond. It will take out the space of the existing quality pond, and it will have its own quality control cell on the north and the quantity control cell on the south. The existing inlets will be maintained to a certain extent. The inlet from Turner Drive will be maintained up to the existing chamber just west of the pond. And the new inlet pipe will be connected to the pond quality cell. In terms of the South Balsam inlet, that pipe will remain up to a new manhole and the rest of the inlet will be decommissioned. And the new storm pipe will be installed on the north side of the site to bring flows on the quality section of the pond. The outlet of the pond will be maintained similar to the existing condition, but will have a brand new pipe that will discharge flows into the existing 1200 storm sewer that takes flows to the Uxbridge Brook Creek, as Mark mentioned earlier. There is an existing quality control pond that will be maintained, and this will be used for emergency situations if that is needed. And in terms of the trails on site, they will be maintained to the extent possible, and whenever they need to be relocated, they will be accommodated around the new pond. So the darker lines represent the new trails. So the existing trail was just further south a little bit. We are bringing it to the north. We are maintaining the existing trail on the west, and then we are continuing the trail on the along the close to the railway corridor and looping it back to the existing trail towards South Balsam and further northeast. As Mark mentioned, this will provide quality and quantity control for the stormwater flows coming from the entire subdivision. Mark, next slide, please. As we mentioned earlier, this proposed pond will be placed on top of the existing two-cell system. So the existing quantity control pond was taking the space to the north, and now we are just realigning it and providing additional volume to account for all the climate change data. And this pond will also restore and enhance the existing stormwater management volumes on site, and this will meet current and future needs. The quality control cell of the pond will be on the north, and once this fills up, the flows will spill over onto the quantity control part, and they will be slowly discharged towards the outlet. Mark, if we can move to the next one, please. The project will also include the addition of a hill on site, and this is located on the east side of the new pond. The area is about 2,500 square meters, and it will be a new chain link fence will be installed on the edge of the proposed pond for safety reasons. The advantage of this hill is that we will keep all the soil that will be taken out from in order to take the proposed pond, and all those quantities will remain on site. As mentioned previously, we will relocate the trails, and there will be a continuous path throughout the site with additional areas for the community to enjoy that space. Mark, can we move on to the next one, please? Thank you. Part of this project, we are bringing in new storm pipes from the South Balsam Street as well as Turner Drive, and they will carry the flow towards the new pond. And also a new outlet structure will be placed in order to maintain the allowable release flows into the municipal infrastructure. In addition, all the catch basins in the subdivision, the divide will be south of Brock Street. They will be equipped with catch basin shields. So these are some inserts that will be placed in the catch basins that will capture the sediment. So less sediments will be conveyed further into the pond, and that will result in less cleaning required for the pond and improved water quality. Mark? Thank you. In terms of environmental considerations, Lee undertook an environmental study to determine what are the species at risk and what the environmental constraints are within the site. And there will be vegetation removal required, and Mark will discuss about that further on. But we are expecting about 15 meters of vegetation to be removed beyond the swim pond footprint, and the vegetation will be restored after construction is completed. In the existing condition, based on the environmental studies undertaken, there were 2 potential species at risk that were identified within the site. That was a limited exposure there found. So we are discussing about the eastern meadowlark and the snapping turtle. So part of our project, we are proposing to first locate if there are any turtles found before construction, they will be relocated to a safer location. And in terms of protecting the birds within the site, we have a timing for the tree removals in order to make sure we are not getting into their birding season. So there will be no vegetation removal between April and August 31st to make sure we are not impacting those communities. And all that tree removal will happen outside of this timing windows. Mark, over to you, please.
Okay, thanks, Christina. There's with every construction project, there is impacts, and what we do is try to mitigate those impacts by using various construction techniques. The major impacts on this project will be dust. Erosion and sediment control is really the big one, because we are working in existing ponds, and the stormwater will continue to come to this location during construction. So for dust, they can apply dust control measures at anything from water is most likely if needed. Over on the on this side of the that metal grating is called a mud mat, and what it does is it shakes the vehicles so that any debris falls off their tires, and so it reduces materials getting out onto to the road. So in regards to the erosion sediment plan, which is a requirement from the not only the township but from the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, is we avoid working in certain times. Like if it's a heavy rain, we don't want the contractor to work. Probably don't want to work there anyways, because it would be very difficult. But so that avoids a lot of sediment being thrown out and potentially leaving the site. Will encourage revegetation when certain areas are done, completed. That area can be revegetated. And we're divert runoff away from exposed soils, so construction, ditching, swales, that sort of thing, to keep water controlled, keep the velocity low so we don't have big steep grades, so that it reduces the amount of sedimentation that is removed from the site. And then the whole site will, the perimeter fencing will be a sedimentation, double fence sedimentation controls with sediment traps to keep everything on site. So the first phase of the construction is the removal of the trees and shrubs, and that has to be done before April, as Christina said, to avoid the breeding season. So this area will be fenced with sediment the control fencing, and the trails will be closed in this area. The signage will be put up telling people that the trails are closed. The access is from South Balsam, and this area is mud mats. So so we do have quite a area that we can put the mud mats to make sure that the vehicles leaving the site are as clean as possible. So so this shaded area indicates where the vegetation's being removed. This is in regards to the trails. So the trails will be closed at South Balsam, Turner, and then the access points from the budding trails. There's a number of other access points that not just from the streets that will also be signed, and they'll be signed in advance so people are aware what's happening. Another impact. So this is from South Balsam into the stormwater management area. So this will be the contractor's access. We're working with Canada Post to relocate the mailbox, and it'll be very close by to this location, and so that service won't be disrupted. And in regards to construction activities and the working hours for the contractor and the related noise of a construction is the township has a bylaw in place for that. It's Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Excuse me. So the next steps of the project. So we're more or less we are completed the design. We have to get approvals from the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, and once those are in place, we expect them very shortly. We apply to the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks for environment compliance approvals, and then at that point we're ready to go to tender. So the tree removal and shrub removal is before April this year, and the main construction of the ponds and piping is midsummer, and the contractor will be finished late fall. So that's the end of our presentation. So we can open it up for questions. Excuse me. Any questions?
Hi there, it's Willie here. I'm the Ward 4 counselor there. Bennett introduced me earlier. Just a quick question, as the project gets moving along, will we have pamphlets out to indicate if there are any concerns, who they should be contacting on site? And obviously that'll be forthcoming, but just in case that question does come along, I just thought it makes sense to have it here since we're taping it.
Yeah, construction notices will for the surrounding area. That's what you're referring to. Yeah, that's yeah. That would be part of the procedures before we go to construction, and maybe an update as we proceed into it. So yeah.
Right, and assuming that'll be moderately soon, given the timelines for removing vegetation.
Yes.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah.
There is a couple questions in the chat, Mark. I just wanted to draw your attention to, and the first one is about will people be able to use the pond after the construction's finished, and specifically for skating?
that is not
Well,
recommended.
We don't recommend skating on detention ponds. They, the water levels go up and down in them, and you might be skating on ice with like no support from the water below. There might be a gap. So township's policy has always been to advise against it.
There's also a likelihood, Ben, is there not, that runoff from the roads get into that as well? So as if, and in the winter time, as we get this and the runoff, there might be a level of sodium involved as well. So if there was ice, I mean, obviously salt melts ice, right?
Yeah, that's true too.
There's a number of concerns in the chat. I don't know if you can see that, Mark. I can read them, go back up to the top and read them out if that helps you.
Please. Yeah, please.
So somebody's made a comment that the pine trees are going to be torn out and provide a lot of privacy to the area. What are we going to replace those with is the first question.
There'll be some vegetation reintroduced along the I assume that it's the fence line, but it will the walkway is fairly close to the fence line on the South Balsam section. On the Turner side, there won't be any impact in regards to from the walkway to the back of the properties.
Do we know how big the trees are that are going to replace them? They're hoping that they're going to be quite mature trees that they get replaced with.
Well,
we don't typically have a lot of luck replacing mature trees. But we'll plant some nice trees that will grow quickly. Smaller trees grow fairly quick. The risk of planting large trees is that they don't do well and don't live very long. So
there's another question. There was massive flooding a few years back affecting some homes nearby. Will this help avoid this issue?
Yes, that I think if I'm got the right event, that there's a 3 or 4 houses west of the walkway on South Balsam that had water in their basement, and it actually wasn't flooding so much as the outlet pipe froze up and backed everything up, so we had to steam it open. That's only ever happened once since I've been here, and I've been here almost 30 years, and this should help that. The structure that the water was going into, that it's going into now, isn't the best arrangement, and that will be the structure. It'll be torn out and the pipe extended further to the west into the pond, so the pipe will have a better outlet, so that shouldn't happen again.
There's a few questions about how close to the fence line on South Balsam the project will be. So when you're putting the new pipe in, how close is it going to be to the fence line?
I think it's, if I remember
5
right,
meters.
yeah, it's to the south of the existing walkway.
Can I make a suggestion, Ben? This is Dave. Can we go to the slide that shows the diagram? So we can maybe better visualize it?
Sure.
Thanks.
The pipe is about 6-7 meters, even more away from the property line. That walkway, it's a 3-meter wide pathway.
So
And it's to the south of that.
yeah. So it's running on the south side of the walkway, the new pipe, and so you have the walkway, and then you have the gap that's going to there'll be some new trees put in there. We want to keep the pipe away from any trees also. So
And then there's a question about, will the finished project have a country feel? Is there going to be a lot of concrete visible?
no, not
No.
much concrete.
Really no more than there is now.
Sorry, this
Yeah.
is Dave. Before we go to the next one, Colleen, can we go through where the trees exactly will be removed on this, again, on this diagram? And maybe zoom in a little bit so it's more obvious?
Well, we don't have. I don't have all the trees, but it's this whole area. So there's a fair number of trees.
So again, just with that, along the property lines, which is probably where people are most concerned, is there a way that we can limit the vegetation removal close to property lines?
We could probably look at that. I don't think South Balsam will be a problem. You can see how we just have to tighten up the slopes a bit, Christina, and stay a little bit away from the backyards.
Yeah, we can look at adjusting this where possible, but we do, it's got to be a certain distance away from the pond and so on. But we can try to make improvements where we can, but that's obviously there is going to be some vegetation taken out. So I understand their concerns.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Colleen. Sorry to interrupt.
Did we lose Colleen?
I don't know.
Oh, here I am. Sorry. I'll just read this. On this diagram, is gray line to the north the pipe or the path?
It's actually both. Are you talking this line?
I think that's what
Yeah.
that person means.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's actually both, because the pipe is underneath the path. So that's the path, and the pipe is underneath it. It comes to around here and then out here. And so it's the same location here and here. So this is the existing pathway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then there's a question, it says, why must the large balsams be removed? But I guess a question that goes along with that is, can any of them be saved?
Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Really, the only trees that might be able to be saved are those around the perimeter. And we'll have a pretty extensive replanting program as well. Which is a requirement of the Conservation Authority as well.
There's a question, will we replace the benches around the pond?
I can talk to Parks about that. See what they want to do. Sure.
I'll just read this one. For the finished product, will the pond appear smaller or larger or hold more or less water than the current pond?
It will appear larger. What's happened over time is that the main pond is filled in. So right now you can see water here, but the pond is actually this big. But so we're making use of some of this pond here. So it will probably appear larger. It will hold more water because it will be deeper. But it is also giving this space where we're putting that hill. So it won't, in area wise, it may appear to be smaller, but it's more or less the same footprint size, but organized a little differently. So it's allowed us to give some area for other uses. In this case, we do need a stockpile area, and regulations now more or less require that try to keep the soil on site. So that's why we put that hill there. It's going to look different.
Okay, there's a question about the trail network. What will the new trail network look like in this area?
So this is the new alignment of the trail behind South Balsam. We're replacing this bit. This is going to be the same, and then this is more or less the existing location. It actually runs through like this. We're moving it to the south around, and there's an emergency overflow through here. There's going to be a little pedestrian bridge, and then connect back up into here. So more or less the same amount of trails as there is now.
And there's one question on how deep the pond will be, or how deep will the pond be? And wondering if there's a picture of what the space is supposed to look like when it's complete.
Christina, the depth of the pond?
Yes, the pond is 2.5 meters deep. But the top of the pond, as it is right now, will be the same. We are deepening it at the bottom. And for the rest of the question, we don't have right now a visual for how this is gonna look like. We have the engineering drawings that show the footprint of the pond and the hill. But we can work out on providing something later on.
So we will have a specific email address set up shortly for this project. So if you want to check back on our website in a couple of weeks, we should also have a web page set up specifically for this project. We'll put the slideshow on the website and with the email address. So if you have any questions, you can email that website or email the address and we can answer it. We can also post the planting plan when it gets approved by the Conservation Authority. We can do that as well in the next couple of weeks as well.
There's a question about what the main purpose for the project is. Is it to increase capacity to deal with storm surge, or was it because the pond basins aren't able to deal with the water?
It's so there's more because of climate change. There's more water, and the existing systems were built in the 90s. So the techniques now are help us control the water better and improve the water quality, the release of it to the environment. So I'm not sure if I answered the question, but it's an improvement for the whole system. The system's improved on many different ways, and plus it gives that little that space where that hill is for because instead of having the ponds all over the place, it's confined into one location.
It's Willie here. We also had some residents in the past term that were providing concerns about it back to Township, to Public Works and myself. And my understanding is that the pond wasn't fully operating as it was engineered, to his point, to back at the day when it was made. So that's why this project was put in place, so that we could ensure that it was operating properly as well.
Thank you.
There's a question about the hill, how big it is and what public use people might be able to make of it. And there's also a question about the elevation of the path, because right now it's lower than most backyards, and they're wondering if the new path will be higher or lower than the existing path.
It will be slightly higher, not much higher, but the grade, the slope is it's fairly the rises towards South Balsam here, so it is going to be slightly higher. Sorry, what was the first part of the question?
The hill, how big is the hill, and what use will people be able to make of it?
Well, we don't have a planned use for it. That might be up to the township to, if there's going to be something, parks, if they wanted to do something with it. But right now it's just a hill, and it's fairly large. It's so like there's the one of the existing ponds, so it's about twice the size of that one pond there. So to give a concept of how big the hill is.
So what we'll do with on the website is we'll post a couple of cross sections of the hill and a couple of cross sections of the pond, both sort of north, south, and east and west, so that you can visualize it a little better. I understand it's hard to visualize it when you're looking at something flat. So we'll develop a couple of cross sections through the hill and the pond, north, south, east, and west, and we'll maybe just, if we can, we'll post it on our website in the next couple of weeks.
The height of the hill, it's about 2 to 3 meters on the east and the north side. So closer to the properties, that's the approximate height of the hill.
Yeah, so it would be the top of the hill is a meter higher than the back of the properties. So the fence is back here, where you wouldn't see the hill, right? So,
But like I said, cross sections will show you better.
yeah, so we can run some cross sections through here so people can get an idea of it.
Dave?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. First one, if we didn't do this project at all, what would eventually happen?
The ponds would stop functioning. And, yeah,
Okay. And the pond's purpose is to protect all the water courses downstream from it, right?
water
Ben?
quality, which means the quality of the water going out of the pond, and quantity, which is the amount of water that it sort of holds back in a storm and releases slowly into the receiving stream after the storm's done.
Okay, and then just talk about what happens to these ponds over time and why projects like this have to happen. And we've done a few of them in my time. Ben?
So over time, they fill up with silt. Even though we clean the catch basins every year, they will over time fill up with silt, reduce the capacity so that when there is a storm, it doesn't hold the water back long enough. Also, part of the benefit of holding the water back is that any dirt that's in the water will settle out in the pond before it gets released into the receiving stream.
Okay. Hey, Ben, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
There's a question about timeline when for the construction. When will it be done?
Late fall. That's what we anticipate. It's dependent on getting the approvals in place so the township can tender the project. But that's the plan.
That's
And
the
somebody-
plan.
Sorry,
However, if the if for some reason we're delayed in getting the approvals and it doesn't allow us to start, then we still have funding. We applied for a grant and got a grant for this partial grant, and that funding's good till 2026. So hopefully we get it done this year, but if the approvals take us longer than we anticipate, there's a possibility it might be next year.
So there's a question about the replanting and if there's any ecological engineering plan to promote species diversity and support native plants and animals. And another question that's similar is, could this hill be naturalized?
It could be naturalized for sure if that's what the residents want. If we naturalize it, then it doesn't become an area for recreation, bike riding or anything like that. And yes, we would only use native species, and Mark's team has all of those professionals on staff, and they'll come up with a really nice planning plan with natural native materials that go in.
Yep.
There's a question asking to clarify that the new path would be 6 to 7 meters from the backyard fence.
The path, I believe, Mark, is in about the same position.
Yeah,
As
it
the-
is. it is closer through here. This is the existing path. It's closer. I don't know exactly if it's 6-7 meters, but like down here, it's not, but that's where the existing path is. And over here it wouldn't be, and that's where the existing path is. So I don't know exactly where they're talking. So, but you know, we're sort of limited through here, and we're just connecting back over here. So, I mean, we can certainly look at it, see if we can pull it back a bit, but it is actually, it's, you know, we're tying into the existing path, which is not 6-7 meters away.
Okay, is there a plan to put fencing around the ponds?
Along
I
this
think,
side and this side, but not the whole thing.
so permanent fencing will be there.
Yes.
Yeah. Are there time limits or other restrictions on the proposed construction access?
What do you mean by, I wonder what they mean by access?
They mean.
I'm not sure,
this?
Emily, if you want to clarify what question you're asking there.
The access for all the construction equipment will be down through the existing walkway off of South Balsam, if that's what she's.
Oh, okay, she lives adjacent to that and she's wondering about what time of day will the equipment be passing through there, I think.
7 a.m. Our noise bylaw is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They typically don't work much past 6 o'clock unless they're in the middle of something that needs to be fixed and or needs to be completed, I should say. Monday to Saturday. They can work Saturday. They don't typically work too many Saturdays, most contractors. They will, however, work more Saturdays if they're running out of time at the end of the season.
There's a question about the path again. So for the houses that back onto South Balsam, some of it is very steep from the fence line to the path. Does that mean the slope will be less steep? Having the path much lower than our property provides more privacy.
So when we post the cross sections of the hill and the pond, what we'll show is we'll show the existing elevations and we'll show the proposed elevations so that people can see how much the path is going up or down and what the difference is between the proposed and what's existing now.
I haven't seen any new questions, but I'm going to go back up to the top and make sure I didn't miss any. This has been a really good discussion. Looks like we got most of them. I think going forward, it's fair to say that we'll be able to answer questions that come up as people look at the plans in the future. We'll be able to address questions on an ongoing basis as well.
Yes.
So if there's more questions later, we can answer those too.
Yep, and yeah, if they have very specific, I mean, obviously, people may have very specific related to their property, and we can address it specifically with the detailed engineering drawings. We'll know. I mean, so we can do that through the questions through the website.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any new questions coming up now.
Great.
Okay, so we'll endeavor to get all that stuff up on the website in the next couple of weeks so that you can have a closer look and have a closer look at the cross sections and provide us with any questions or comments that you have going forward. I did neglect to say that Councillor Pickering is with us as well, so. So, thanks for coming. We appreciate all your questions and input, and hopefully we get through this year without too many issues. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Christina. Thanks, everyone.